All right, here we go. Chapter 6. Chapter 6. Book presentation. I will tell you with this one, this is a short presentation. I'm doing this one just to fulfill some of the questions that you're going to have on the quiz, but I would urge you to continue to read through and review Chapter 6 because I know you're going to see some content on the exam at the end of week 2. So let's go ahead and jump into this. For this, we're talking about competition versus cooperation. Now, the book talks about competition is usually defined as a situation where people compete against each other in organized activities. It's a social process that also includes rewards. So not only are we coming together socially, right, to compete against one another, but we're also being introduced to a reward structure or reward system based on how well we do. This operates under the premise that it's a bit of a zero-sum game where if I win, you lose, and it's pretty absolute and pretty binary. I would say this in terms of competition. Competition is necessary to sports and athletics. It has to be that way. And there has to be somebody who wins and somebody who loses. That's just the nature of competition. So I don't. When you read chapter 6, you'll kind of get the vibe that the book is saying, well, maybe competition at some point is not so good. There's a couple little text boxes there where they talk about that. And I disagree, to be quite honest. I think competition has its place in society and competition has its place in sport. I digress. So the reward structure for cooperation is a little bit different, right? For cooperation versus competition, cooperation, it's a social process where performance is evaluated and rewarded in terms of the achievements of the individual working together to reach a particular goal. And it's not individual single, it's individuals plural. So cooperation itself, at least in this example, is a reward structure that is different than competition. So group success depends upon the collective achievement of all participants, which is great, but I have to again contest that when you're in a competitive environment, you might be playing basketball, you're the point guard, you have to be highly competitive to take on the other point guard. Meanwhile, your entire team is working together to implement plays, do a pick and roll, whatever it might be, to help you in that success. So there's a collaborative component, a cooperative component, and a competitive component when you start talking about athletics. And the book provides that they're not mutually exclusive, and cooperative people can be, quite frankly, as competitive, but it's their process and how they go about being competitive. They work with others, etc., to complete a task, and the book knows that the complexity of the task matters. But I will say this: if you're playing a sport, let's just take football. I have 10 other guys on the field with me. We're all on defense. And in that example, I'm going to be asked to be highly competitive against my particular opponent. I have to, guard a certain person. I have to cover a certain person on defense. If I'm playing basketball, I have to guard the other point guard. That's highly competitive. But I also must be very collaborative with my teammates on the field to be able to execute certain plays and strategies to make that happen. I can't be a lone wolf. So there's a balance here in terms of the competitive side and the cooperative side. And I would contest that when you start talking about something that's highly complex, like a sport, that there's going to be a constant ebb and flow and balance between the competitive side and the collaborative side to be able to be effective and win. And quite honestly, when you get into higher level athletics, that is why you're there. You're there to win, not cooperate with the other person. And I will say this, there's a couple rare examples where I can think of this one gentleman. He was a baseball player in Japan. He viewed the pitcher not as competition, but as somebody who was collaborating with him. He felt that, and he was a great hitter, he felt that he needed that other person to deliver the baseball to him so he could hit it. I get it. So in his mindset, it wasn't competitive with this other person. He was collaborating with this other person to be successful in his endeavors to be a great hitter in baseball in Japan. Those are kind of rare examples, But at the end of the day, you have to realize that there's an ebb and flow, there's a balance in this situation when we start talking about collaboration versus competition. So as you go through, make sure you go ahead and review the rest of the chapter. What you just saw in this presentation will be kind of crucial for a couple questions on the quiz. I would urge you to focus some time on that and be on the lookout for Module 2. Or I'm sorry, the rest of Module 1. Thank you so much, guys.